This month's Community Corner is Mechanics Hall, a historic cultural hub and library in Portland's Arts District that brings together creativity, ideas, and community through the arts and humanity. Founded in 1859, Mechanics Hall has served Portland for over 160 years, and following a major revitalization continues to be a vibrant anchor in downtown, supporting artists, engaging residents, and fueling the local economy. Recognized as a nationally significant historic building in 2022, the Hall preserves Portland's heritage while shaping its creative future. If you're with Mechanics Hall, if you're on the staff, board, or even a volunteer, please stand now so we can recognize your important work. Thank you. We encourage everyone to connect with that team to explore ways to support this remarkable restoration. Our Tomorrow's Leaders and Entrepreneurs program gives local students free access to eggs and issues, and we're glad to have some students with us today. So if you're a student, please stand and be recognized. Okay, now on to the main event. I would like to welcome to the stage Mayor Mark Dion, Executive Director of Portland Downtown, Carrie Tyson, Founder and Principal of Developer Collaborative, Kevin Bunker, and Deputy Executive Director of Portland Museum of Art, Elizabeth Jones.
Please turn off your phones.
That's helpful.
Is it my
I'll
phone?
check. I already did.
Well, first of all, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us for this important conversation on the future of downtown Portland. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to start with short-term steps to stabilize downtown, then shift to the longer-term vision for transformation. So, Mayor Dion, let's start with you. You ready?
I hope so.
People who live, work, and visit downtown often talk about concerns around safety, cleanliness, and public order. And even with the new community policing center, there are ongoing issues about needle waste, public drinking, and the role of meal programs in our public spaces. What short-term steps do you think will help stabilize downtown and rebuild trust?
Now there's an opening question.
I wanted to go easy with you on the first one.
No one ever goes easy with me. Listen, before I start, there are members of the City Council in attendance today, and I'd like them to stand for a moment. And I wanted to do that because I want all of you to understand that as we move this city forward, it's just not the responsibility of the mayor to do that, but it requires an intentional partnership on the City Council as well. Going to your question, I have received lots of communications, digital, person-to-person, written, telling me about the frustrations and the issues confronting downtown Portland. I've spent many hours walking on the street myself, talking with business owners, getting their personal assessment of the situation. I've engaged those who are unhoused in the community to get a sense of where they're going and why they do what they do. So I've tried to build a picture. But I want to say this, I take some umbrage at the trouble with Congress Street. I'd rather say the challenge of Congress Street. And I'm not a marketing individual, but I think we need to send a message about what the future might be, and it's a positive one. I love this city. I believe in this city. And because I believe, I know our work can realize success for all of us. So it's not a trouble. Later on, we'll talk about history. I've been here in this city long enough to see some of these problems in a different shape arise, and we got it done. And I believe in my heart we will get it done again. So I ran as mayor, and I've been consistent in my communications with all of you, my conversations, that public safety, clean and safe spaces in the public commons is essential. And I think we're doing some good work there. And I appreciate those business owners who have also stepped up to try to support that. What you have to bear in mind is we're still post-COVID. The downtown would have changed despite all these other issues. It's changed the complexion and the density of our pedestrian traffic, and we're trying to cope with that. And also, the pandemic didn't help in terms of the consequences of public gathering. And lastly, we've confronted an opioid addiction that's now transitioning to methamphetamines at a scale unprecedented. And we're not alone. I communicate regularly with other mayors in New England, and it's the same questions and the same challenge in each of their communities. So I want you to know we're not alone. It feels that way when you step over things you shouldn't have to, getting to the office or your retail storefront. I get it. It's revolting, it's disgusting, it intimidates, all right? But we are doing the work that's necessary. I want you to know that. And I'm going to go over some of the strategies that we've undertaken. I think the idea of public safety and safe public comments is one that is the basis for a lot of debate on the council. I may have a different opinion with some of my colleagues about how to move forward, but I'm utterly convinced that they believe that they want a safe city as well, a successful city. So we have to be united as a council if we're going to help all of you move this city to where we want it to be. And it's not easy work, all right? But I also want to end with this before I do some slides. It's just not about politics. If you leave it to us alone, be wary, all right? Be very, very concerned. You shouldn't laugh so hard. But it kind of underscores what I'm saying. We have limited knowledge. We don't run businesses. We don't deal with balance sheets. We don't understand that the emotional safety of staff is critical to have a successful enterprise. All right, we see that from afar. So I'm only asking that you consider we are a resource and we are a partner, but leadership is going to have to come out of this room as well. So let me do a few. We ready to go? I'm going to stand. Our economic development team is looking to invest in storefront design and safety. The council has passed a vacancy ordinance, and that debate can occur in another space at another time, but the ordinance is now in place. The idea is that we re-energize a commercial corridor by at least making it look like it's welcoming and hopefully soliciting some in the arts community or the performance arts to participate in those spaces. Humans attract humans. Successful cities are dense. When I was walking a footbeat in the early 80s, I had to say, excuse me, as I went up Congress Street many times. That was the volume of pedestrians that existed. So this is an attempt to do that as well. In terms of safe and clean spaces, we have added patrol. We're opening a new community policing station in Monument Square to include officers and behavioral health specialists to try to address the consequences of the issues that are involving our unhoused individuals. Let me give you a quick footnote, a historical piece. Most of us, see, I still think I'm there. Most officers are in patrol cars. That came out of an expectation in the 70s that the most important thing about a police officer was to get her or him there as quickly as possible. When I joined the police department, we had 35 footbeats, all right? We were everywhere on the sidewalks. And I think actually it worked better. You got to know us as individuals. We got to know you in a non-crisis context. We knew the person. The worst way to meet someone is at a 911 call, right? That's not their best face. It's not. And it's hard to draw conclusions about what their intent is or how they actually participated in the event. Footbeats takes that away, and you have that personal expectation. And more importantly, a business owner might decide, I don't need to call 911. I'll wait till Dion shows up. He's usually by here about 5 in the afternoon, walking. I'll talk to him. He knows me, I know him. He'll understand the situation with a better lens. So part of the community policing initiative is to get officers in the street, in the neighborhood, so we can have that kind of relationship. I've become a real champion of the ambassadors program, as do many of the counselors, because they address the thing that I was getting the most critique for, is that we couldn't address litter, needle litter often, human waste, other biodegradables, and just general rubbish that would emanate in the corridor. I won't bore you with tax law, but there's a legal reason why we couldn't do those services. So the ambassador program makes sense and addresses a very significant gap in our ability to create safe and welcoming public spaces. And we all abut that in our business work. I was telling somebody before coming in, the ambassador program exists in Providence, Rhode Island. I know the mayor there very well, and he too is a big champion, because he also recognized with his council how important that gap was to the success of the commercial sector, and they've moved forward. Our DPW department is doing the best they can to be diligent and intentional about dealing with general litter. So, staff at the city is putting in new bike share stations, recreation equipment. There's talk about actually completing the Congress Square redesign. I went down to the new soccer field that's back by Hannaford's. I've been asked since I was on the council, when will it be done? I always say be patient. And that took 5 years. It wasn't easy, but it's important. And there were a lot of challenges for the construction company, but they met it head on. And we benefit from an environmental structure that'll make our city better, as well as a new recreational space. We returned it better than when we tore it out. So Congress Square is coming. There's talk about doing modifications in Monument Square as well. Okay. Emergency shelters, I remain steadfast that passing out from drugs in doorways is not dignified. It's not morally correct. We can't ignore that as a community. So I won't put it on other councils, but I'll own this. It's not merciful. I'm not waiting for them to come to a decision that they need help. We need to be much more assertive in trying to get individuals to where they need to be, period. It's not popular. Sometimes I'm accused of being the big bad sheriff. Sheriff's in the audience. You want to stand a minute, Kevin? Where are you? You shouldn't disappear so quickly. That's Sheriff Kevin Joyce. He's the big bad sheriff. I'm just a former big bad sheriff. But there's nothing wrong with arrest if there's the promise of intentional assignment to therapeutic services. And we are at a place that many of the individuals that we engage have lost their capacity to make a decision in their own best interest. And we might have to do that for them through the court. It's not popular. I'm not looking to arrest people. I'll continue to debate that with my counselor colleagues. But I think a court could get them into the places they need to be, and they'll come out better in the process. It's a whole lot better than checking to see if they're actually dead. It's that simple. We have outreach teams, and we have good community partners as well that are reaching out to the unhoused and trying to do this work. Food distribution, Monument Square. I got a lot of critique and feedback about that. And the council directed that the administration enter into negotiations with those community partners that were providing the food, and we've moved them to from Monument Square to Cotton Street. Is it a perfect answer? There are no perfect answers in government, all right? There's the best answer at the moment, and that is our best answer, because we did clear it out of Monument Square, and we had to. It is the core of the city. We've also had the community partners subscribe to processes that we hope their presence on Cotton Street that we're monitoring doesn't add a new place, a new set of headaches. But the reality is we have people that will go hungry if we don't make that outreach. And we can't have that. I can be tough, but I learned as a sheriff, if the inmates aren't fed, it's going to be a bad day, all right? So if individuals are unhoused, they have a right to eat. We need to meet that obligation. And hopefully in other places, through the shelter, they'll finally get transitional housing and try to reconnect with the community at large. Let's see. This is
You're stealing my thunder.
That was simply
Spoiler alert.
a preview of coming attractions. I'll just close with this. I want you to know we're committed. I'm going to rely on something that former Governor Baldacci told me in a conversation once. I was frustrated about the process of getting a political decision. It doesn't happen too often in my arena. And he said, Mark, listen, if it's a mile into the woods, it's at least a mile and a half out. And it's important. We've taken our mile, and we're frustrated, we're confused, we're anxious, there's fear, there's a wonder, can the city get it together and respond? We are getting it together. We are doing the work. We start on the walk back. Where does the extra half mile come from? All of you. You have ideas that you press upon the council, and we'll explore them. There's no straight line in making a downtown work, but there is a straight responsibility between us and you to see it to its end. So I want you to know we've turned around and we're on our way back, all right? And I'll take the former governor's word, it won't be more than a mile and a half. Thank you.
Mark, before we move on, just two quick questions. Will the pilot program continue through the winter? Do you have a sense of that yet?
Let's see what the data shows. I mean, I would rather remove the word temporary to permanent, but it's going to really rely on your interaction. Every single one of the community policing centers we've opened in the last few decades remains because it's created a value in the space that they've been assigned to. So if no one makes use of it, we can deploy officers from headquarters. But I think there's a value in having a foothold and a commitment that's demonstrable by having the neighborhood station there.
Thank you. One other quick question. Do you have an accurate total of the unhoused in downtown Portland now? And has it gone up or gone down?
I always hope it's going down. I'd say there's probably, it depends who's counting and when. But I'd say these are individuals, maybe 75 to 125, depending, and we're trying to do that. And they have every sort of reason as to why they don't want to be in a shelter, so that's part of the work. And I'll close with this. When I first took office, we cleared out the major encampments. Public camping by the unhoused hasn't ended, and year to date, we've resolved 460 tents. And it's not as dramatic because it's all margin work, but we are getting people into the shelter. And the last time I checked the numbers, we've actually transitioned over 100 of those individuals into real housing and into sobriety and to move away into recovery. So the media never makes a story about that. It's not dramatic. Wow, we got saved, right? She's healthy. They actually got an apartment. What else you got? All right? But I want you to know, as citizens and residents and business owners, we continue the work. And this is the harder work because it's not dramatic, but it's absolutely essential to long-term success.
Thank you. Carrie, the mayor was talking a lot about the ambassador program, and this summer, downtown your group has launched the Downtown Ambassador Program, which was funded by businesses to the tune of $750,000. Want to ask you, how have the first few months gone, and what feedback are you hearing? And also, can you give us an update on any streetscape improvement activations in public restrooms?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm going to give a little bit of background first. As the mayor did, he set the precedent, so I'm going to stand up because that feels a little better. This is as close as I'll ever get to Colbert or a TED Talk, so I'm gonna take my moment, right? A little bit of background on, oh, I hit the wrong button. Rachel said we would do that. You know, how we got here, and the mayor covered a lot of that. It is the COVID sort of hangover, right? You've heard this term, the urban doom loop. He's right. We've seen this in communities all across the country. I've been in downtown work for about 25 years now. My colleagues at the International Downtown Association and others are all dealing with similar issues. So, you know, it's not just one thing. It's housing, it's addiction, it's mental health, it's change in retail behaviors, people buying online. We really reinforced that during COVID when we'd all hit a button and you stop going into the store. And then, of course, the biggest thing, work from home culture has changed. Like, you only coming into the office 2 or 3 days a week now, and that's a wholesale shift. So we also have this moment where folks signed 5-year leases in 2020, and so here we are in 2025 dealing with this. So it's a lot of hangover from all of that. But there's no one way to do this. There's no one way to fix it. Everything's changed. At Portland Downtown, we started in 1992 officially, probably 1990 before that. I think our board members who are here today, including one whose mother is my predecessor. Like, we're a legacy organization here. And it was done that because we were a rough and tumble place in the 90s. We weren't Bon Appetit's Food City of the Year, and here we are. History either repeats itself or it rhymes, but this is the way. So there's no one formal way to do that. And we're dealing with challenges that are not just geographical, they're behavioral. It's not just downtown, it's Bayside, it's Forsyth, it's the West End, it's the East End. We're all dealing with these problems. Sometimes they just concentrate in a certain area. Now, is that because there are services there? You know, this is the conversation to have, right? But we're all dealing with these. But when, in our case, as it relates to the ambassadors, you know, we had a 2-year discussion on this. My board did not want to spend that $750,000. We are the only organization like ours in the country that had our cleaning efforts come through city public works staff. Those teams are amazing. They're great. They're wonderful. But as the mayor said, they are restricted. They can only go on private property. They can do other things. They didn't work for me, even though we paid their salaries. So, you know, finally, I think it's fair to say that when we saw that litany of disregarded needles, my board, that was the last straw for them, the last straw. So, you know, I'm glad to be here also talking about something that's not toilets. They call me Toilet Tyson for a reason. We are working on public restrooms and gonna have one in our office at 87th Street Center in the coming months. But like, that was it. We took a 2-day trip to Providence, as the mayor said, and our board came back, went skeptical, came back convinced. This is the way we have to do it. But there were other things that sort of motivated us here, and we can't forget how we got to this situation. My friend Annie Leahy and her article, we had a couple of calls to action, and this is, I think, a big one of them, and I want to give her credit for that. So these are the things that happened. I was very familiar with the ambassador program because, like I said, I've done this work for 25 years. So here's where we are. We ended. This is the most up-to-date stats. We're working on this. It's a little hard to see. I'm certainly happy to email this to anyone. But our folks are out there doing all the things that Public Works couldn't do because they can't go on private property. They will pick up needles. They'll deal with human waste. They take care of graffiti. These are little things that turn into big things. They really, really matter. They get into your brain. You kind of forget sometimes that, oh, the top of the trash can is graffitied. Oh, there's stickers everywhere. Oh, there's this graffiti that doesn't get taken care of in a week. Our goal is to get it done in 24 hours, 48 hours at the longest. We're already seeing results. I think downtown in the last 6 to 8 weeks when our program is launched is already in a better shape. We've already seen our vacancy rate on Congress Street go from 18 to about 10%. That's still too high, but it is making progress. Again, work from home, that changed everything. That's changed the way we're having to doing it. But good things are still happening. People would not be proposing investments into downtown if downtown wasn't an incredible place to be. I put an asterisk on one because we know why. There's no silver bullet. There's no one way to do this. We can't fix it. Our ambassador program is not the only thing. It takes many hands to make light work. In fact, again, the small things make the big things. I always call this turning details into delights. This is why we paint crosswalks. This is why we highlight the little things. This is why we have the best bus stop in the nation. This is why we promote lighting. All these little things. Turn your details into delights. So how are our ambassadors doing that? They're getting out there. They're working with folks. They're dealing with the little trash. They're dealing with graffiti. We're painting, doing some little things as well. It's the little things and the big things. There is no silver bullet. So what is that gonna look like in the future? We are hoping to, now that we have more hands, we're hoping to do more little things that again make big things. These kind of efforts like hanging baskets next year, lots of lighting, some directional signage, more murals, maybe some signage on the street signs, all sorts of little things. Again, details and delights. So I'll stop with this final one. I'll ask you to swipe right on our city. Material.
Thank you, Carrie, and you teed up Kevin perfectly, actually. You just mentioned the Time and Temp building, your leading efforts to bring back the Time and Temp building as part of some more housing that's desperately needed in Portland. What barriers do you face in adaptive reuse, and how can policy, financing, or partnerships help move projects like this forward?
Thank you. I'm going to try to stay seated. We'll see how it goes, but I'm still stuck on Toilet Tyson. Yeah. They really call you that? No. Wow. I wonder what they call me. But yeah, adaptive reuse has a lot of challenges to it, but I think those are generally known. Conversion of office buildings into residential, the challenges are generally known. The floor plates aren't efficient, the buildings are old. It's hard to get the layouts right, but I think that's not really, we just finished a project on Forest Avenue, just opened it, which was a conversion of an office building, the loft apartments, and it's a big square, not a long rectangle, which is what you want to convert to housing. You want like a mill building layout. You don't want a big square, but office buildings tend to be big squares, so the challenge is to get enough windows in the units, end up with some funky layouts, but you can do it. A is not so much the challenges with any one particular building, but this Congress Street and downtown. A challenge or an opportunity or whatever it is, we all care about it. We're here. Time and Temp for me is more like I felt like I have to do it because I don't know who will do it if I don't. Then I want to do it, and I think it's an awesome opportunity because there are a lot of other easier projects and easier opportunities that have less risk, but these are the ones that matter, and so I tried to do the whole building, couldn't pull that off. Now I'm doing the annexes, but are there any city planners in the audience or student planners? Anybody? Planners? Anybody? There's one. Okay, a couple. Jane Jacobs is what's been going through my mind. Who's read Death and Life of Great American Cities? All right, more people than our planners. That's good. That's what whether or not you know it, that's what you were talking about.
Jane Jacobs.
Well, great, he knows. So it's the small things that lead to big things, and Jane was a really prescient theorist, and all this stuff that's going on has been done before. It's been dealt with in the 60s. What is it? Ford to Cities Drop Dead. It was bad. It was maybe as bad as this or worse. I don't know. I was just being born then, but she looked at the cities and looked at the responses of the time, which were, and again, history does rhyme, well-intentioned but possibly inept. And the ideas were bulldoze the old neighborhoods, build big parking lots, build convention centers, and revitalize that. We all know that didn't really work as well. But what she said was that cities are alive. Cities are living organisms, and they'll come back. It's pretty hard to kill a city. I think it's pretty much impossible for us to kill Portland, Maine, but that doom loop, it is a loop. The good news about the doom loop is that it comes back around. And I think the question is less about, are we going to kill the city by action or inaction or different factors, or is it COVID or interest rates or construction costs? The question is really, how long is it going to take, and can we shorten the time, or are we going to lengthen the time through our actions? And what Jane said was the broken window theory. You know, you fix the small things, create an environment where people can flourish, where people want to be, people will come and the city will get better, essentially. There's 300 and 400 pages of that, but essentially that's what she said. She also had a lot to say about small-scale capitalism versus large-scale capitalism, which I know is a hot topic at City Council, capitalism at all. But I think the answer for Congress Street is that I had dinner there the other night. I moved to Portland from Brunswick last year. My taxes weren't high enough, so I wanted to come here. No offense.
None taken.
Yeah. But you know, because we love the city and worked here a long time, and there's a professional relationship and a personal relationship. But we were having dinner on Congress Street, and I had just spoken with a friend who owns some buildings on Congress Street and was saying, do we need to just sell and liquidate and get out, because is there no hope? And I texted him after and said, I don't think that's true. I think that all the elements are here. It's still, at times of day and year, it's still a wonderful place to hang out and be, and it's a street that wants to be successful. We just have to let it. And so I think the cleaning up of things is a topic that's been covered. So the art museum is more important than me, so we got to give them time. But I think residential density is a big part of the answer, because you have customers for the businesses, and you have people who are invested in their neighborhood and not, you know, going home at night. That's a big part of it. So I think the more, they call rooftops in marketing, but the more people we can get that live there, care about it, and want to see it be successful, I think the better off we'll be. I think we're starting to head in the right direction, but it has taken way too long to get to some sort of fragile consensus, and it should have happened sooner.
Thank you. Elizabeth, let's jump in. So you have the shiny bright spot. The PMA's Blueprint is a major cultural project. Can you share an update on the campus reimagining and how the new spaces like Congress Square will help restore foot traffic and vitality to downtown?
Sure. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really honored to be on the stage with all of our civic leaders here. This is an exciting moment, I think, for our city. I also take issue with the topic of that Portland is in trouble. I really feel like we are on the precipice of something great. And so it's not possible without collaboration, and there's so many collaborators here in this room. I'm looking very fondly also at my PMA team in the front row here. We are ready to go to work for this city, and so I'm excited to share kind of some ideas that we have and also where we are. But I've been at the PMA for about 14 years. And in that time, I've asked myself a lot why museums matter. And museums can be anchors for civic life. It's a place that allows us to tell the story of the present. It allows us to look back in the past. It allows us to look into the future. And museums can be a real refuge for people, right? To go and look at a work of art, to gather with some friends and neighbors, to meet up with friends. It's a place for inspiration and growth, right? So a student picks up a paintbrush for the first time and then all of a sudden decides to be an artist or an architect. This is kind of why I think we all do our work, right? It's a crucial part of city life. And so if you come to the museum, you'll probably see me in the galleries. I like to overhear what you all say. You know, whether you're exclaiming about a beautiful blue in a work of art like this one, or you have just had a wonderful lunch, or you're laughing in the sculpture park. Art is part of a beautiful life. We really need art in our lives. It brings us hope, it brings us joy, but it also allows us to deal with the difficult topics of the day. And so one of the things that is sort of a guiding light for the museum is a quote by David Driscoll, and this is a work of David Driscoll's, who says, "What we leave as proof of our being here will not necessarily be in the sciences and politics in economics, but it will manifest itself in the arts. So one of my colleagues who's sitting right here, Marcy, who's our communications director, likes to say that a museum is a third space. It's not work, it's not home, it's this space of belonging and space of connection. And this concept has really guided our thinking about the campus unification plan and project for the PMA. A third space should reflect that sense of belonging, that no one owns this space, that there's regularity, people return consistently, and playfulness, like space for creativity and enjoyment, to be comfortable. And so we're already seeing that happen, and I'm really excited, right? The library is a fantastic model for this. And libraries are wonderful gathering spaces, community spaces. The Portland Public Library is such an asset to this community. At coffee shops, including the Flatiron that just opened right across the street. I mean, I know the PMA always goes there. We are so excited and thrilled they're open. Congress Square Park, Indigo Arts Alliance, Mechanics Hall, Space Gallery, the list just goes on and on. We are very rich in the arts. And so where are we today? Yes, this is one of the largest cultural projects that Portland has seen in decades, but we're not just building a wing just to build more buildings or more infrastructure. We're really responding to real needs that we have at the museum. Our collection has grown beyond what we can handle. We are busting at the seams, and it's wonderful. You all need to come in and see the amazing world-class art that is right here in Portland. This is a collection that belongs in Boston or New York or anywhere, but it's right here in Portland, Maine, and this is just an extraordinary wealth. And so the gifts of art, our collections, are coming to us at unprecedented volume. Our programs have expanded beyond our classrooms. We don't have classrooms, by the way. We need classrooms. Our programs are completely oversold. And the museum, I think, needs to be less imposing. It's a beautiful space. It's a beautiful building. It's architecturally significant. IMP, the visionaries that built it, really knew what they were doing for the city of Portland. But it is an imposing brick wall. And we need more transparency, we need more light, we need more openness and to reflect the community around us. So museums across the country have shown how rethinking space can energize a city, and we're building in that way that feels right for Portland, approachable, welcoming, and most importantly, people first and centered around art. The new sustainably built new wing is designed to do just that. Right now, the PMA's only true front-facing is iconic and visionary, right? But it's imposing, and the new wing will turn outward, opening directly onto Free Street and Congress Square with light-filled and free public comments. So welcoming space where people can gather whether or not they have a ticket. You can come in. It will be that true third space that I talked about earlier. And it's connected to the energy that already exists in Congress Square Park. It's an extension of that work. The library, the local coffee shops. This design was intentionally designed to face Congress Square. This was the whole point. We really feel bullish on this because the energy needs to go into the Congress Street corridor. It wouldn't have been any good if we had focused our energy out on Spring Street. And it's about creating flow, permeability, and connection. Each year, the PMA can have 150,000 people coming through the museum's door. With the new wing open, we expect that number to at least double. And we know from experience, from examples nationwide, that when people come for art, they're also coming for the food, right? They're coming for the parks. They're coming for the stores. They're coming to shop. So think about the energy in the city when the State Theater has a big show or when the Mariners are sold out. That same buzz from a major exhibition can come from the PMA, but we just simply don't have the space to do it right now. So, yes, there is going to be an economic and social dimension too, and cities like Bilbao, Spain have shown that bold cultural investments like this can bump urban renewal. Portland doesn't need to become a Bilbao, Spain, okay? I'm not saying that, but we do because we already have a strong identity in our culture and the arts. But we can build on the reputation by better connecting the Old Port, Monument Square, and the Arts District into one cohesive experience. Our expansion project is about connecting to the energy. So Portland Downtown District, the Congress Square Park, Monument Square, and creative community around us. We really think that by activating Upper Free Street, which is where we are, We also see an opportunity to link the Arts District more closely to the old Port Energy, creating a stronger, more walkable corridor through the heart of the city. So at the end of the day, our vision for the project is simple: to make downtown, our vision for the project is simple: to make downtown stronger, more welcoming, and more alive. And we see this as an opportunity not just for the museum, but for the entire Congress Street corridor. So it's ambitious. We know this. Trust me, I've been living this for the last 3 years of my life. It's been a hard but rewarding process. And I think with the whole board and the whole staff, I can say we're really approaching this with a strong clarity of vision. The arts is already what makes this city vital. Our job is to create the spaces where the vitality can now grow. So I just want to thank you for including the museum in this conversation. That's a huge step, I think. Art can be a grounding force in this work. And I want to thank you all as well.
Thank you. One last question for each of you, real quick. What one change, policy, investment, or mindset would have the biggest impact on downtown's recovery and long-term vitality? Mark, let's start with you.
Believe. It's like the stock market. It's not about the individual sales or losses. It's about a belief that we're going to get there. None of this that we're facing, I've been in this city in service for, it'll be 50 years next year. We've seen this before. Business leaders stood up, civic leaders stood up, and the council was there to partner with them to move the ball down the court. It's that simple. But you have to believe we're going to get to a good outcome. And that has to be fundamental to everything we do going forward.
Thank you, Carrie, real quick.
Yeah, people over everything else, people forward. Walkability is key, and keeping that in mind. But if I had one magic wand to deal with the 4 Ps that I'm always getting called about: pee, pot, poop, and parking, which is the constant thing. I would have AI technology and better signage to guide people to the 15,000 parking spaces that already exist downtown.
Kevin,
Can you repeat the list of the things?
what would have the biggest impact on downtown's recovery and long-term vitality? Is it policy, investment, or mindset?
I think, well, maybe there's a 5th P, and it's partnership, and the mayor mentioned it.
Adding that.
Again, I feel like the seeds of recovery are there, and it wants to be successful, and it can be successful. I think it's individual business owners making individual decisions, whether they be big capitalists or little capitalists that are trying to make a living.
That are going to be able to make it successful. And I think I've done a lot of work with the city,
Deep partnership with the city, really closely, maybe more than most developers.
and at times I still feel like
The enemy, or it's an antagonistic relationship. Now that isn't across all departments at all times. Some wonderful people doing wonderful things, but
I think that when someone is when a business
business owner is trying to do something good and trying to fix something, I think the city could help be in partnership with them and try to figure out how to get to yes. And I think the nature of a bureaucracy, and isn't necessarily the city of Portland's fault, is that they are conditioned to get to no because they're scared of their job or risk-taking or public headlines or different things. And it's a lot easier and safer for someone in a bureaucracy to say no by the nature of the work that they do than it is to try to figure out how to get to yes. And I think that is a cultural change. It's easy to say, very, very hard to do. But if you don't admit it's there, you're never going to be able to fix it.
Thank you. Real quick, sorry to cut you short. We want to get some questions.
I'll be so quick, but if I had to wave a magic wand, it would be to invest and finish up Congress Square. That really set us back a little bit, I think, in that whole area, and we are so excited about the progress that's coming forward. And then the only last thing I'll say is, we really need more government support, Mayor, for the arts. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now it's time to take some questions from the audience.
My name's Evan Carroll, Build Architecture as well as Jerome's Bar. Portland used to be full of young adults in the streets. They were the presence in Congress Square and other places. They're gone because they can't afford to live here. All these initiatives raise property values. How is this closing the loop on bringing young people back into the streets?
Who wants to take that?
I can take it from my perspective.
Sure.
I mean, fundamentally, adding supply brings costs down. I don't think raising property values is necessarily the biggest issue we face, but there's a complete lack of supply, and there's no, if rent control actually makes housing harder to build, because as a new entrant into the market, you're incentivized to set your rents as high as possible because you don't know how much the council is going to take from you next year. So
Yeah, rent control is a tax on people who want to come here.
that's benefiting the people who are
So those people that are in rent control
units now are definitely getting a benefit, but
anybody who wants to come here is essentially being taxed
by that because
by hard to sell units here.
of something like that. So I think if we get some of those things right and understand that money isn't going to do what we want it to do just because we think so,
But if you go where,
welcome.
Thank you. Another question.
Hi, my name's Lisa DeFranza, and I lived and worked in Portland in the arts for 30 years, and then I left and I'm back, and I'm here. And I was very intrigued by your second slide, Mayor, and the arts in the empty storefronts concept. And I've heard about this in lots of conversations as I've talked to people around town. Who's organizing this? How's it gonna happen, and how can we be a part of it?
Greg Watson? Stand. Be welcomed. Greg is our Economic Development Director, and the storefront initiative that I described is going to be spearheaded by him and his staff, so you should connect. All right? And welcome back.
Right over here we got one. John Fitzgerald from Bath Ironworks. I spent some time in Augusta, I spent some time in Portland, and sometimes I feel, and I think I've heard the mayor talk about Portland being taken for granted as an economic engine, as an engine of the arts and culture. And is there something that we can do to try to spread Portland's message beyond the bounds of Portland and press upon the state and legislators how important it is that this city thrive?
God. Where to begin? Listen, we are taken for granted. Somehow we're held to account for anything negative in the city. Yet most dollars that make Augusta work came from all of you. Right, amen to that. Double amen. Here's what I'm gonna say, we're in an election season right now. Challenge the gubernatorial candidates. Some have met with me, and I've been pretty consistent to say to all of them, don't give me the commercial, I'll watch them. Tell me exactly what you're gonna do for the city of Portland, period. And I'm parochial, I wish I cared about the rest of the state, but on some level, I give them the same care and consideration that they give us. So I want a governor and a government that commits to Portland. Because without Portland, this state doesn't work, and that needs to be recognized. And I appreciate our state representatives because they fight against that bias each and every day. Some of the candidates have given good answers. Some were actually taken aback by the question. And I also said one other thing too. I says, and I want you to commit that when the mayor of Portland calls, he's not talking to staff. Whether it's me or anyone that follows me, the mayor of Portland, and by extension, the city council of Portland, should be granted that deference and respect. So it's a cultural thing. I fight it all the time. They criticized us about our shelter, that we were incompetent, and we proved in an administrative hearing, their hearing, that we weren't. And I could hold up a list that was carried by Representative Zagar that showed most of the individuals that we're providing services to come from their communities. So my tolerance for that attitude has evaporated. And yes, I might be a little combative. You can feel it coming up. All right?
Time for one more down front here.
So Bill Higgins, Homeless Advocacy for All. I was resident of Cape Elizabeth, went to Annapolis and graduated in 1981 and was a nuclear engineer. I now find myself homeless again in Portland after being housed for 15 years. Thank the city for the shelter that's there and Kevin for building it. The shelter has beds for 240 men and about 60 women. And right now, very rarely is there an open bed for women.
For what?
Very rarely is there an open bed for women to actually get into the shelter. And given that the York County shelter has closed, there's going to be people coming up from York County over this winter. What will the city of Portland do when people start dying on the street? Can we possibly have a sanctioned tent encampment? I'm just putting that as a potential.
Okay, now you're making me stand up. No, it's all right. Bill and I have exchanges at City Council all the time. Here's a question for all of you. How long do we build a runway? Do we build a runway that serves all the needs of the state? Or do we say there is a capacity for compassion and we have to push, compel, pull by the chain other communities to meet their responsibility? That's the razor that we dance on as a city. Build it, they're going to come. But I have to go to all of them now and say, you're going to pay for it. And I don't think that's fair. We've had a governor's administration that has refused to meet that obligation, and we have a state legislature that rather look the other way as they debate what should be the state dog. Right? I have a dog. The price I pay for that kennel bed, and I bring all the supplies, is less than what we can afford to pay for human beings, all right? So my dog gets a better deal than an unhoused individual. But I don't want the city alone to own it. It is a state responsibility. We talked about Providence. That state says sheltering and all the costs belong to the state. And that's why Providence, when I walk those streets, don't have the same challenges we do. So for the gubernatorial candidates in the room, it's time to step up to your responsibility. Period.
Well, thank you all, Mayor Diane, Carrie, Kevin, and Lizzie for joining us this morning. What a great conversation. Thank you for coming.